Today we're going to take a look at population ecology. Here are two of your crash course videos. The first one is going to be about population ecology, and the second one is going to be about human population growth. So when we look at a population as a whole, we're going to look at population dynamics. So first we need to define a population. That is all the individuals of a species that live together in an area. When we look at population dynamics, we also need to look at demographics, which is the population size, how dense the population is, the distribution patterns we see, and the age of the population. Three key features of population include size, density, and dispersion. The first key feature of populations is size, which is simply the number of individuals in a given area. When we look at the number of individuals in a given area, or the size of the population, we also have to consider the growth rate. The growth rate is going to be the rate of natural increase, which will be the birth rate, or natality, minus the death rate, or mortality. This is going to show you how many individuals are born versus how many individuals die. The second key feature of a population is density. Density is the measurement of population per unit or unit volume. The first key feature of a population was size, and the second one is density. Population density equals the number of individuals divided by the unit of space that you're looking at. Several things can affect density, but we need to look at four in specifics. The first two are immigration and emigration, which can sometimes be confusing. Immigration is the movement of individuals into a population. I always remember that because immigration starts with I and individuals are moving into the population. Emigration is the movement of individuals out of a population. I always remember that because immigration starts with E and individuals are exiting the population. The other two factors that are going to affect density are density-dependent factors and density-independent factors. Density-dependent factors are factors in the environment that have an increasing effect as population size increases. Things like disease, competition, and parasites. The more individuals you have in a population, the more competition there will be for food, resources, mates, housing. There will also be an increase of disease and parasites in the population as it grows. Density-independent factors are factors in the environment that affect the population regardless of how large or small they are. These are things like temperature and weather. This is just a diagram to show you how immigration, emigration, birth, and death affect a population. Birth and emigration are going to add to the population. Immigration, remember, starts with I, so it's individuals moving into the population. And emigration and mortality, or death, are going to subtract from the population. Remember, emigration starts with E, and it is individuals exiting a population. The last key feature of populations is dispersion. The first key feature was size, the second key feature was density, the third key feature is dispersion. Dispersion is going to describe the spacing of organisms relative to each other. We need to look at three of dispersion methods. The first is clumped, the second will be uniform, and the third will be random. Clumped is going to be the most common type of dispersion pattern. As you see from the pictures, you can see the clumped, uniform, and random population dispersion patterns. So how are these populations measured? First, remember, population density is the number of individuals in a given area or volume. So how we measure the populations is to count all the individuals present. However, this can take a long time if you're measuring a 100-acre plot. Therefore, we're going to estimate by sampling using a mark and recapture method. If you're measuring a 100-acre land plot, and you're trying to decide how many rabbits habitat there. Every rabbit that you capture is going to be marked hence the mark. That way, if you recapture that rabbit that was marked, you don't account for that. That way you don't get doubling of samples or an inaccurate sample. Populations are going to grow in various ways. There are models, specifically two kinds, that are going to graph population growth. These are exponential growth and logistic growth. When looking at exponential growth, this growth curve is going to give us a J shape. This J-shaped curve shows us that the population will continue to increase because of optimal conditions. This exponential growth curve is seen a lot of times with bacterial cells. When we give bacteria cells the right environment, the right temperature, the right amount of food, the bacteria are going to continue to grow over a period of time. As you see, the number of cells at 20 minutes is 2. The number of cells at 4 hours is over 4,000. So as long as you have the resources to continue to feed, keep your bacteria at the right temperature, and have optimal conditions, the cells will increase in number. So what kind of factors can limit growth rate? When you have a declining birth rate or an increasing death rate, they are caused by several factors, included limited food supply, the buildup of toxic waste, increased disease, or predation. The exponential growth curve and the logistic growth curve, which we will look at in a moment, each have a carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is represented by K. Carrying capacity is the maximum population size that can be supported by the available resources, whether that be food, mates, or housing. There can only be as many organisms as the environmental resources can support. So when you look at a logistical growth curve, you will see that it almost makes the letter S. The exponential growth curve makes the letter J. With continuing optimal conditions, they're going to keep reproducing. However, the logistical growth curve will level off as resources are reached its max, as the breeding male fur seals reach their carrying capacity. When you look at population ecology, you will also have what is called boom and bust. Boom and bust can be very easily seen with the lynx and the white rabbit. The white rabbit's main predator is going to be the lynx. So as you can see from the graph, every time a snowshoe hare has a bust, an increase of babies growing to adults, the lynx will also increase because they are being well fed. When the snowshoe rabbit hits a bust, the lynx population will also decline because there's not enough food to support the lynx population. Each of the two are in conjunction with each other and depend on each other for survival. How each organism is going to reproduce for these boom and bust is different. We can have our strategists, which are quote-unquote the cheap strategists. These are things like cockroaches, weeds, and bacteria. These organisms are going to have a short lifespan, a small body size, reproduce very quickly, have many young, and give little parental care. As you can see, this is the cheap version of reproductive strategies. You can also have K strategists, which are what humans are. These are the expensive strategists. They're going to have a longer lifespan, a larger body size, they're going to reproduce slowly, have few young, and provide a lot of parental care. Another example of this is elephants. When looking at population ecology, you also have to look at age distribution. This is the distribution of males and females in each age group of a population. This is used to predict future population growth. As you can see from the graphs, the first one on the left, the baby boom age group when they were 10 to 15. Then if you move down to 1980, you're going to see those people growing up to 20s to 30s. And then if you look to the top right in the 2000s, those children are going to have children, and since there was a high number of the baby boomers, those children of the baby boomers are also going to have high numbers. So, as predicted in 2020, each time the baby boomers have babies and their offspring have offspring, the numbers are going to increase. This is why it is important to look at the age distribution of males and females in population ecology. The last thing we need to look at is human population growth. Human population growth is going to give a J-curve growth, which is similar to the exponential growth curve. The human population grows at a rate of about 80 million people yearly. The growth rate, or R, is right at 1.3% yearly. However, when we looked at exponential growth, we know that there are going to be factors limiting the continued growth because there's not going to be optimal conditions. That is not the case with human populations because we alter our environment because of technological advances. We have the Cultural Revolution, the Agricultural Revolution, and the Industrial Medical Revolution that are going to aid us in population growth. The human population has doubled 3 times in the last 3 centuries. About 1.6 billion humans are alive currently, and statistics say that 9.3 billion may be present on Earth by the year 2050. The reason we have not reached our carrying capacity yet is that improved health and technology have lowered our death rates. As you can see from this graph of the history of the human population was relatively low until about 1000 to 2000 AD. You'll see a small dip for the Black Plague, and then you'll see about that time our populations grew significantly because of all of our technological and medical advances that are allowing older people to continue to live and not die off as quickly.